Today I'm going to show you how you can use Alloy's integration tools to build an integration between your app and a popular storefront like Shopify, Magento, BigCommerce, etc. We're going to look at some automatic order fulfillment type use cases today. So what we're going to look at is if we wanted to capture new orders getting created in Shopify, bring those orders into our app where they get processed and fulfilled. And now that they've been fulfilled in our app, we want to push those updates back to Shopify. So in this way, we keep all of the order and fulfillment data in sync between our platform and Shopify, including things like tracking numbers and statuses and all of that good stuff. So let's hop right in. I'll go ahead and build a new integration here. I'm going to choose Shopify since that's the app that we're working with today. And I'll hop right into the workflow builder to let us start building the flow. I'm going to choose the Shopify trigger. Now first we're going to capture those new orders and bring them into our app. So I'll choose the trigger that I need. In this case, it's going to be like an order created. And then I'll go ahead and hit next. That'll give us some sample data so we can see how this might look when it comes from Shopify. And this will help us continue to build our workflow. Next, we need to send this over to our server. A couple of options. The simplest is we can use our stream block. We just go ahead and select the data we want, drop in a URL. That's all there is to it. We also have a custom API call block, which gives you access to the full suite of REST methods, so you can do things like get, post, patch, put, delete, etc. Modify the body, all that good stuff. Since it's a simple example here, I'll go ahead and choose the stream block. And we need to give it some URL to send data to. In practice, this would be like a webhook server or something on your servers to receive this data. So I'm going to go ahead and point to a webhooks URL on a local, an ngrok URL that points to my local server. I can choose how many records we want to send at once if we need, and that's all there is to setting this up. I'll go ahead and give this a better name. So we'll call this new Shopify order to your app. And we need to release the workflow, which makes it available for installs, which we'll get to in just a minute. Next, we're going to create a second workflow, and we need to solve for that other data movement case. So now we're listening for new orders. They get pushed into my app. People are using my app to process and fulfill these orders. Now one of them got fulfilled. We want to send those updates back to Shopify. So I'm going to choose the custom event block. This is an API-based trigger, so you make an API call to Alloy when you're ready to run this. So we've got a whole bunch of different custom events in here, but I can go ahead and create a new one. So we can choose like, we could do, what would we call this? Fulfillment created. New fulfillment. We can build the schema here. I'll go ahead and grab that. So what we're doing here is we're telling Alloy what the body is going to look like when we send this data in. So in practice, this is probably like whatever your data model sort of looks like and the data that you need to send over to Shopify. I'll go ahead and click create. That saves the event, generates some sample data for us to build off of, and we're ready to go. So now that we have that set up, we first want to check if there's any current fulfillments for the order. Just to make sure that it didn't get fulfilled twice for some reason or fulfilled separately on accident. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and list all fulfillments for an order, and we'll choose the order ID, which is going to come in from that event payload. That'll generate more sample data for us. And next we want to check if there are any fulfillments. So we're going to do a conditional block. And we're going to check if the fulfillments, we're going to do, let's see here, list is empty. So if the fulfillments list is empty, we want to go ahead and proceed with creating it. If not, we might have some other logic to handle that route. But assuming there's no fulfillments, we're going to go ahead on the list is empty true. And then we're going to choose. The way it works in Shopify is when an order gets placed, it creates a fulfillment order, and then we have to attach the fulfillment to the fulfillment order. A little confusing, but let's go ahead and list the fulfillment orders for the order that got placed. So we'll go ahead and choose again the order ID from that incoming data. That'll look up our fulfillment orders. Once again, we get sample data just like all of the others. And we can continue on with fulfilling that fulfillment order. So now we can do fulfill, create a fulfillment for a fulfillment order. That takes fulfillment order ID, which we can get from the list of fulfillment orders that we just got. And we can choose any other data that we need to map in. So like the tracking company, for example, like the service, or the country, which we might get from the address. And importantly, we probably want like the tracking info, which we can grab from the fulfillment. So we'll do tracking number, tracking URL. We can choose if we want to notify the customer. No thanks. And we don't need a message in that case. We could map in the line items if we need, but I'll go ahead and just fulfill the entire order. Cool, so now that this is set up, we're gonna give this a better name here. Created to Shopify. All right, so new fulfillment created to Shopify, and then we'll release this workflow, and we are pretty much ready to test. So if I click this preview button here, we can see how this is sort of gonna look for our customers. The next step here is to wire this up to our front end and show you what it looks like for an end user to interact with these integrations. To test these workflows, we first need to create an installation. An installation is a copy of these workflows, and each of your users will generally get one of these copies. To show how that looks, I'm going to head over here to a demo app that I've built. So what this represents is sort of your application, right? Your user's logged in, they're on your integrations page, and they're hitting connect my app to some third party, in this case, Shopify. So you'll see I have actually the same integrations that are available in my Alloy. So you can think of this as like the back end, and now we're here with those same integrations available to end users. So I'll choose Shopify since that's the one we're working with here today. And when I hit view workflows, we can connect to it. Launching the Alloy front-end SDK. So I don't have a Shopify connected right now. I'll go ahead and enter my Shopify credentials. Hit connect. It's going to bring me out to Shopify and ask me to log in with my credentials, which I'll go ahead and do. All right, back in our application, finish the installation, and that creates a copy of these workflows for that end user. So now that we have a copy of these workflows back in Alloy, we can actually see that installation here on the Installations tab. So the next step is to go ahead and create an order in our Shopify. So let's go ahead and log in to that store. Head over to the orders page and create a new order. Go ahead and choose some items. I think we have lots of snowboards in here, so I'll choose one of those and maybe one of these. We'll hit add, choose a customer. We're going to choose Alexander Andrews. Let's see if that's good. Cool, he has some address information, good enough for me. Go ahead and we'll mark this as paid, and then that's going to create the new order for us. Now, this order is not fulfilled yet, so it's going to be sent over to our app. And in just a sec, we're going to see how that happens as those webhooks come in. So to kind of show that off, if we actually go back over here to this orders tab, I have this little webhooks drawer I've created. And right now there's no data that's been received by the app here. But in just a moment, we will see that come through. So let me pop back over here to Alloy, go into the workflow, and we'll just wait just a minute for that order to process through here and send to our app. All right, I can see that it just took a couple more seconds there. It's now shown up. So if I refresh the page, we see our second run has come through, and it'll contain all of the order data. Moreover, on our front end here, if I hit the refresh button, we can actually see that data. So here I'm just rendering it in the UI, but in practice, you would process and do whatever you need, maybe storing it to a database or whatever you might need to do. Okay, so we've received the order in our app. Now the customer or the user of your product is going to process and fulfill that order, and it's time to push some of those fulfillment updates back to Shopify. So the way we're going to do that, let's take note of this order ID, because that's kind of the key to tying things together on that fulfillment request. And then I've got a sample JSON. This is the same thing we looked at earlier for our custom event payload. So I'm going to go ahead and just swap out the order ID with the latest. The rest here is really just track, test information. We probably want to adjust here the country to like USA as well. Let's go ahead and change that just for good measure. Cool. All right, and let's go ahead and hop over to the Alloy API docs. Now this is the run event API. So anytime you need, when those fulfillments occur, you can call this API and that'll trigger the fulfillment update in Shopify. So to test this out, let's go ahead and paste that latest data into the body here. So you can see we have that JSON we've been working with this whole time. And then we'll hit send here. Looks like we're missing an API key, so let me just go grab that. Event triggered successfully, great. Come back, and I see that the workflow has run. It received the custom event with that order ID that we just got a couple of minutes ago. Once again, if we look at our order dashboard, we're ending in 2464. And then back in Alloy, we can see that that's that same order, which went ahead and goes through. It found that there are no current fulfillments because it is empty. And then it goes ahead and creates the fulfillment for that order. Now in Shopify, if we go ahead and just refresh the page for that order, we can now see that it's actually marked as fulfilled. So that's pretty much all there is to it. Just to kind of quickly recap, once again, we created the order in Shopify, which brings the data over to our app. We then process the order, which would be whatever your user does in your app. And then whenever those actions occur, like a new fulfillment is created and you're ready to send that data, you make an API call to Alloy, powering those workflows, and that powers the automation. Hopefully this gives you a good sense of how you can build some workflows without Alloy. We're excited to see what you build.